Thank you so much for being here to join our conversation today with um, Kansas University, University of Kansas School of Business, talking about the role of virtual communities in helping to build community and connection among their students. So it's a great topic. I love the content that we have, and we have some great speakers. We'll take a minute. I'll take a minute just to introduce the folks on my end, and then Dee and Christy, I'm going to hand it over to you to just say hello and give everybody just a little note on your background and your role at KU. So I'm Katie Kapler, co-founder and CEO at Inscribe. If you're not familiar with Inscribe, don't worry. I'm going to give you a really short overview of what we do before we get started. But I'm going to be leading and moderating the webinar today. I'm also joined by a couple of colleagues, Danielle Bonner. Say hi, Danielle. She runs all of our all our sales and marketing, and also is going to keep us on track today. So one of the things we would love is for this webinar to be really interactive. Please post your questions, comments, thoughts in the chat. I will note that I think that when you open the chat, it will default to posting only to the moderators. We would love for you to change that so that everybody can see the questions that you're asking, but Danielle's going to make sure that we get those answered throughout the course of the conversation today. And then also joined today by Aaron Knox, our Chief Revenue Officer. Aaron's going to say a few words at the end to help wrap us up.
Can I throw out a rock chalk Jayhawk real quick? I'm not an alum, but
is there a hand signal that goes with that? I don't know. I feel like there should be. But I'm now going to turn it over to the stars of our show, Dee and Christy. Please just take a minute to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your role at the School of Business. Dee, we'll start with you.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Dee Steinley from the University of Kansas. I'm the Executive Director of MBA and MS programs, and I've been with the school for over 20 years. So have done work in higher ed like this for quite some time, and moved into the online MBA space in 2015, and have been learning new things ever since. And very excited to share a bit more about the way we're creating the program and culture with the use of Inscribe.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Christy?
Hi, everybody. I'm Christy. I've been with the MBA team for just over a year now, and I do the day-to-day administration of the Inscribe community for our MBA group and our MS programs, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, welcome, you guys. Thanks for spending some time with us this afternoon and sharing your story. I'm really excited to get into it. Before we do that, one logistics thing I forgot to mention, as you probably noted, we are recording this session, so we will make sure to send that out afterward. Everyone will get a copy. And then we would love to know, we took some time to introduce ourselves. We would love to know who we have in the audience. So if you want to take a moment just to introduce yourself in the chat, let us know where you're from, maybe what role you have at your organization. Anybody who's been to our webinars before knows I'm obsessed with weather. So I'd also love to know what the weather is like in your city right now. It is, I don't know, 65 and sunny in Denver, but it's going to start raining later tonight. So we'll see how it goes. But so let us know. And if there's something special that brought you here today that you really want to make sure that we talk about, please let us know, because we'll make sure that we cover that either in the content or in sort of the conversation that we have around it. I did mention this webinar is being sort of hosted by Inscribe. If you're not familiar with our work, Inscribe is a virtual community platform. So we create digital spaces where students can go connect with peers, faculty, and staff to ask questions, get advice, or just build relationships with one another. Our focus is primarily around online and non-traditional students, and really helping fill that gap for them that sometimes exists in terms of knowing how to reach out to peers and others in my program or at my university to build those relationships. At the end of the day, we're very focused on outcomes. So we really think about what does it take to help students be more successful and retain in their programs. And two of the core elements that we always think about are, number one, sense of belonging. So can we help students feel more appreciated and heard and welcomed into the educational environments that they're part of? And two, social capital. How do we help students build that network while they're in school that will help them not only during their learning journey, but also as they move ahead in their careers. So that's a lot of the work that we do. But that's all I'm going to really say specifically on Inscribe, although of course it will be woven into our discussion today. But more importantly, I would now like to turn it over to the team. I think, Dee, you're going to give us a little bit of background on the School of Business. And I'm pretty sure everybody here has heard of University of Kansas, but why don't you give us just a little bit of information and about the business school?
Absolutely. Happy to share, Katie. So yeah, as you might know, the Jayhawk is our mascot. It is a mythical bird, dating back to Civil War times, because this was part of historical area that involved what they called Bleeding Kansas. And so there was conflict and skirmishes that happened here in the 1850s, and the term Jayhawker grew out of that. So little short history lesson, you can look that up if you're interested. But that's our guy, and along with him goes the famous rock chalk chant, as Aaron mentioned earlier. So it's got some pretty great symbolism and pretty great culture in and of itself here at Kansas. So and I think it's terrific, obviously. So we've been around for a long time. A public research university, we're the flagship in the state of Kansas. 30,000 plus students with a pretty thriving medical center in Kansas City. Obviously, lots of traditions. Our athletics are usually pretty good. Maybe not so much this year, but generally pretty good. And in terms of our MBA program, our portfolio in this office where Christy and I work, we have our full-time MBA program, which is here on campus with us, and that's very career outcomes oriented. This very large online MBA program, which has over 500 students now, which is pretty big. It's singly the biggest graduate program at KU. We have a couple of small MS part-time programs that we do in conjunction with Fort Leavenworth, and then a full-time MS in business analytics, which is also career outcomes. But today, for the sake of what we're talking about, we focus on the online MBA. We're a top 10 program, number 7 this year. We're fully online and fully flexible. We have students from all across the nation and across the world on this platform. So lots of really good stuff going on with that. And how we kind of came into the notion that we just need to add more, right? So you start off in 2015 with a strong core of classes. You've got good things to offer. You got great teachers in the seats. We work with an online vendor, an OPM. So we had a good base of construction for what we're doing. And, obviously we have the benefit of great national recognition. So that helps too, and a very fair price point. So that's kind of where I think the magic, the kind of combination of things comes together. And so you start off and you're fairly well received, and you grow because you can and you should. And you start to realize we may be losing a little something in what we're doing. So, your rankings come out, you're doing well, you could do better. What's the key? You got to bring people together. You've got to have a culture for them that they're going to feel a part of, right? So that's a little bit about us and kind of tells you a little bit about the online MBA. What's my next prompt, Katie?
Well, first of all, thank you for the history lesson. I love that. I also have to give a shout out to your glasses, which really match the KU color scheme, which I'm loving very much.
So a mentor of mine told me to, at one point in my career, it's been about 15 years ago, just buy everything in blue, and then you'll always have an accessory for every day.
I love it. I'm sure the mentor gave you lots of wonderful advice knowing that.
Good advice.
So I mean, obviously, wonderful institution, great brand, as you mentioned, growing program, feels like what could possibly be something, world's your oyster. So tell us a little bit about the other side of that coin, which is some challenges that you are.
Those challenges were becoming pretty significant, right? So you have you have these 500 students that are, well, actually at the time it wasn't quite that many, but we had a lot of them, and we had more than I think we were used to, because we've been a pretty small program here. We have a pretty large undergraduate presence, but our graduate programs are fairly small. And this one grew exponentially. And, in my mind, I'm like, okay, we have to have more of a way to build a culture, a community with these students, but it's hard. And my mind initially went towards, well, let's set up a time for them to come to campus and, experience it. And, at least, get a sense of where we are and who we are. And that felt like it would be a really great solution. So we tried it for the first time 3 years ago, 4 years. This is 3 or 4 years ago anyway, and had an okay response to it. It wasn't required. We don't require it. People showed up, but not lots of people. We had a good conversation. And what I realized is that's pretty cool, but you still need to do more. So, my mind's out there thinking, what could it be? What could it be? We do that in the summer and come back to school. And at some point I get one of these emails from Inscribe that's like, hey, you should come and learn more about this tool. It could be really helpful to you and, building community. And then I'll be darned if it wasn't hosted by somebody that I knew, a man named Fred Scott, who used to actually be with my OPM. So somebody that I had already interfaced with. So I'm like, well, this must be a sign. So just logged in like you guys are doing today, find out a little bit more about this, see if this might be something that looked reasonable. And that's where we began. So,
Awesome.
and it was one of those things where I'm like, I think this could actually work because it's going to live right in that Canvas shell where students are all the time. I know they're not reading their emails. So I think that's probably a really good thing. And then, I think that if there's fun content for them to participate in, if there's good information, they're going to do it. So, I didn't delay. I went ahead and said, yep, I'm doing it. The price point was good. I could afford it. I knew it would probably be a pretty simple thing to add in. I had my OPM on board because of course, they manage the Canvas shell. So we did it and jumped right in. And that was about 2 years ago that I jumped in.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for this, because I think the challenge that you articulated is one that we're hearing over and over again from folks who are having success in online, which it's going gangbusters, but these online students feel a little disconnected. They don't get to be on campus.
Yes.
As you point out, super busy. How do we get them there? So, and also another reminder that higher ed is a super small world and we all kind of run into each other over and over again.
Isn't that funny?
So we ended up partnering with you and to build what we call at Inscribe a peer community. So I know we're going to dig specifically into the design of your community, but just at a high level for folks to level set, what we would call a peer community is what we would think of as above the classroom, co-curricular, bringing students together across a program in a digital space where they can literally just sort of connect and talk to each other about whatever they want. One of the things I always like to point out is this idea of the community as a safe place, because to the point that Dee made earlier, it's integrated into your technology stack. It's accessible to you and your constituents, uses your same school credentials. It carries with it a sort of safety that I think sometimes is lacking if you're going out to external sites or external community platforms where people may not bring their best selves to that space. But did you want to add anything here, Christy or Dee, or do you want to jump right into what KU has been up to?
Well, let me just add before I kind of step back a bit from it.
Yes, please.
One thing I quickly found out is that it does require someone to engage with the community a lot and to monitor it. And what I realized was that I didn't have the bandwidth to do it. But I had a great opportunity in a coordinator role that had recently become open. So I tweaked it and included this piece into it. And that is how we found Christy. And she's just been magical. Like, so it went from being a pretty good thing to being a pretty darn great thing for us. And I give a lot of that credit to Christy and to Inscribe for just being really dynamic together. So I do think that that's kind of part of it too, is just kind of understanding how to make the most of it. It's like a gym membership. You get out of it what you put into it.
That's a great analogy. We're gonna roll with that one in the future. I see a t-shirt
All
in there
right, do
somewhere.
it.
Well, Christy, let's welcome you into the conversation. And I know you're like living this day to day. So we're gonna get into some of the nuts and bolts. And I think, well, let me pause. Danielle, do we have any questions or anything we should address in the chat?
We don't have any questions at this point in time, but I do encourage the audience to please put your questions in the chat and we would love to answer them live.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. I get so excited. I sometimes forget. But so let's dive in to the space itself. And we're going to go through a series of questions, which hopefully will answer some of the, like preemptively answer some of the questions that our audience might have. But Christy, start by talking a little bit about, you know, your role as the owner of this community and what it means to be the owner of the Commons.
Well, and make sure I'm not on mute. So I do the day-to-day administration. I follow the conversations that students have. If they have questions that are really looking for answers that might come from our office, I'm the one who can contribute to that. I post the content on there, resources for the students. I am my own personality. I am that kind of person that would rather sit in the background. Jeannie asked me what I was the other day. I would rather sit in the background and follow other people's conversations, not be the one who starts a conversation or carries on a conversation. So, but I want our students to be those people. So I'm always trying to look at it as what would it take to make me speak up if I were one of the students, and try to approach it from that viewpoint. And so I've tried a lot of different things, still trying new things, so that I can see what it is that they engage with. What are they reading? What are they commenting on? What gets a new person to create a post? And
Awesome.
so it's, you have to stay on top of it, because if you don't, it will go to sleep. And students, you know, they may carry on for a little bit, but it's like, you know, coasting. Once the wheels stop moving, then it goes quiet again. And so I try very hard not to let it go quiet, because I want to keep the momentum going.
Yeah, keep nurturing it a little bit, right? So, and I'm so glad you mentioned that is your personality. That is also my personality, even as CEO of a community platform company. We affectionately refer to those folks as good listeners. I know traditionally they're called lurkers, but that seems like a not very kind name. So, but yeah, those are still a big part of your community, right? A lot of people are going to be consuming content by seeing, and a lot of value there. And I like that you can bring empathy to that role, to that person as part of your role. So the community itself is called the Online MBA Student Commons. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how it's set up and sort of what some of the goals are.
Well, my goal is to have sort of a one-stop shopping kind of place where they can go and they have that one location where they can go for whatever it is they're looking for, whether that's a peer connection, whether it's help with a class from other students who are in that course, whether it's finding general information about graduation or enrollment or deadlines, that, you know, that it's sort of resource central as well as connection central. But it's, you know, one place for everything, so each student can come and find whatever it is that they need.
Yeah, I love that. And I think we sometimes forget because we all know all the ins and outs of things that
Mhm.
students that are learning online, sometimes they don't even know where to go, right? They'll have a question and it's like, I don't know who to ask or where to turn.
Right.
So that simplifying that process for them, I think, is so smart.
Well, and they forget who we are. Even though I may be the one who posts every week and my name is there, it doesn't mean it sticks for them, because these are generally part-time students, but full-time professionals who have full-time
Yes.
jobs and families. Some of them are military. They have a lot going on. And so this is easier than them having to retain it all, being able just to go back to one spot. The search feature is super easy to use, and they can find everything right there when they need it.
And do you also find that students are connecting with each other and sort of talking to and supporting each other in these spaces?
They are. I'd like to see more of that. I think even if everybody was talking, I'd want everybody to talk even more. But they do. Recently we started doing an alumni spotlight,
Oh, cool.
and we post an interview that we turn in, to a story from alums from the program. Not people who have just graduated, but people who have gone off and been out of the program long enough to have made any kind of a career move or career shift they were going to do. And I've noticed, and then in that article, we also asked that they share their LinkedIn if they want current students to connect with them. But I've noticed that students who are now starting to introduce themselves are inviting their peers to connect with them on
Ah,
LinkedIn. And
love it.
so yeah, they're starting to see that. And the alums keep, each one of them seems to keep mentioning how important networking is, and how valuable it has been since they left the program to have made those peer connections while they were in the program. So I think that's going to help a lot
Yeah.
in getting these students to understand it's more than just us asking them to talk to each other. There is true value in it.
Right, right. And that alumni piece, especially in the business school, is so, as you point out, such a core value proposition of the program itself, just access to that network and those individuals. So I love that you're bringing them in and making them accessible.
Hey, Katie,
Danielle, any questions you want? Oh, yeah, look, you're getting ready.
there's so many things going on in the chat. First, somebody shared that and I think this is really important. Somebody shared that they love the name the Commons. One of the things I love about our communities is seeing in the initial implementation phase, seeing our team and the partner come up with the unique name for the community. And I think it's something that's special, and it makes the community feel like it's already integrated within the institution. So just sharing that little piece. Somebody thinks the name is awesome, so thank you. And then Christy, Jeannie wants you to know you do a great job nurturing the Commons. So thank you for making sure that gym membership is getting used. Now rolling into some of the questions, do students receive a notification of something new or a response to their questions?
They do. It actually, like, if somebody posts, it pops up in my email. It's just a brief notice, so it will drive me over there to look at it. So yeah, they do get a notification. Now, I'm actually not 100% sure. Maybe they can turn that off.
Yes, so you can get notifications as you pointed out through email. We also have a mobile app, so if you've downloaded the mobile app, you can get them on your phone. And then they're pretty granular, so students can go in and customize. What do I want to hear about? How frequently, right? Like right away or maybe once a day. And then if there's stuff they want to snooze, they can snooze that too. So we understand students can get overwhelmed. And moderators as well. So giving them the flexibility to kind of tailor that to what they need.
Katie, is there a limit regarding how many people can belong to a single community?
There is not. We have had communities with over 60,000 members, and we have had communities with a few hundred members. So it really runs the gamut.
Christy, I think this one goes to you. Do you moderate the interactions to filter out solicitations and procurements?
There are filters in the program, and you may be able to speak more technically to this, where there are certain words or vocabulary that will send up red flags, and then I'll get a notice so that I can go and look and see, if somebody's, for example, it might be the word frustrated. And then I can go look and see, are they expressing, that they're frustrated and I need to jump in and help with something? Or are they saying, because of this, I don't feel frustrated, in which case, that's just using the word there. So you can put in the red flag words that you want to help you stay on top of it. And I think your system already has a good number of them built in.
Yeah, we got a long list of keywords that you can customize. And then to your point, it also is sort of measuring the emotion of the post. So if the emotion starts to get a little negative, it'll let you know. In terms of like specifically solicitations, things like that, a couple of things I'd say. One, it's a closed community. So you're not having anyone in there that you didn't let in. It's not anonymous. So you can see anybody who's posting and what they're posting. We would generally recommend that you set community norms as part of the onboarding. Students will be told, here's how to use the community, what's allowed and what's not allowed. It's very rare, I think, that this happens, but if it does, you can snooze somebody. You can go in and say, hey, this is not what the community is for, and we're gonna snooze you for a week while until you learn better behavior. But that doesn't happen very often, I think, for the original things that I mentioned.
Let's talk about integration a little bit. I think we actually get into this in a few
That's
slides.
a great question. It's our next slide.
Perfect. So somebody wants to know if the app lives in Canvas, and how is it different than using a Canvas shell as a community?
So Christy, why don't you speak a little bit about the integration and how students are accessing your Commons?
Our online classes are all delivered through Canvas. And so we have a link built into every every Canvas course. So each class that they pull up, the link is right there. We have added that in. And so they can click on it and go to it right there while they are in their Canvas course. It's in every course that they have. But that's something we intentionally built into it.
Yeah. So it's LTI integrated, really easy to add links within a course, even above the course level. That's, I would say, pretty common. 99% of our partners integrate it that way. You could create integration points other places. If you have a portal or website or other tools where students are going, you can create access points there as well.
I also have a link to it that's at the bottom of my signature line. So every email I send to them, the link is right there, just as another place if they wanted it and they were in email and they weren't signed into Canvas. It's an easy place for them to find it and click through right there.
Wow, so they can bookmark it or go direct to it if they wanted to. Yeah, that's really smart.
One of the things
Sorry.
that Christy had shared with me was intentionally telling students, like, that's a great question. Go put it into the Insight. So I think that's one of the things that you're doing, Christy. Maybe you want to share a little bit about that as well.
Yes, I intentionally drive them to the MBA Student Commons. If they're asking a question that is very unique and specific to their own situation, their own circumstances, obviously I deal with it right there in email. If they are asking me for graduation information, I will thank them for their question and then direct them to where that post is on Inscribe to say all the information, all the details you need are in Inscribe. Search this keyword, put this keyword in the search box, and it'll pull up all the posts related to graduation so you can get all the information right there. To train them, graduation would be at the end of their life, but it could be enrollment or whatever the topic is, just to keep driving them back there so they get used to realizing that information is there and you can instantly use the search feature and find your answers right there, not have to do an email, wait for me to see it, wait to get a response and have that back and forth.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, I was going to just say, I love that you touched on the efficiency side of the community, because I spent a lot of time talking about belonging and social capital and connection, but there is this very practical, like, once a question is answered, you should not have to answer it again. So like put it into this many-to-many environment, drive students to the solutions you've already provided. Hopefully that frees up some time in your day, Christy, over time as you build this knowledge repository. And I did actually see the question about the bot, so I'm going to answer that really quickly. And Christy, you can jump in. We do have what we call our technology assistant, Rosie, that lives in the communities. And so if a student starts to ask a question that's already been asked, Rosie will redirect the student over to that content automatically. So it's kind of pushing you over to where the solution already exists. Hopefully you've experienced that, Christy, and it's been helpful for you and your students.
Yeah, I think generally the questions I'm getting are for people who are from people who are not accessing it at all and just need that reminder that this is there, and go there. And because I have that link in my email, it's not like I'm telling them, okay, go sign into Canvas and then search this word. You know, I can say, click that link at the bottom of this email, it'll take you right there.
Log in, really easy access.
We have two questions about the ratio of moderators to students within a community. How many moderators do you need for an effective community management, excuse me?
Right now, I'm the only one moderating. We have over 500 students in our program, and it feels very manageable. Now we're at the graduate level. I don't know if that makes a difference. If you had an undergraduate program, would they be more demanding of your time? That I can't say, but it's been very manageable.
About how many hours a week do you think you spend in the community, Christy?
Well, I like to play around in it, so I'm probably in there.
I like it.
I'm probably in there more by personal choice than actually having to be there to manage things.
Totally.
I think I can right now, because I'm over a year into this, I can do it a few hours a week.
Yeah, gotcha.
But I spend a lot more time in there because I'm always trying to figure out, oh, what could I do next? Or what could I throw out there next to try to entice them to, continue something they're already doing or do a little more of something they're doing.
Right. Yes. And like, what are they talking about in there? I'm kind of curious. I want to know what's going on. That's what I would be in there doing.
And it's not like what they were talking about in January of 2024 is the same right now. Every cohort truly brings its own personality. We have 3 new cohorts a year because we have spring, summer, and fall in enrollment. And they truly do bring their own personality to it, and have different interests and different things that they talk about. So you have to stay on top of it for it to stay current.
I love that. That's so cool. It's like evolves over time with the student populations.
I believe the next question is from a current partner as well. Do you use channels in your communities, or is it all just one general community?
We have just one general community. I've talked with Jeannie back and forth about, should we break it out by cohort? But by breaking it down into smaller channels, we're also sort of cutting down their network opportunity, to make those relationships with peers in different careers, or to be able to have conversations with somebody who's, a year ahead of them in progress, or somebody who's just come on. And so we've kept them all together so that they can learn from the one who's gone before them, and they can also be sharing information with the one who's coming up behind them.
I like that. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay, there's one more question, but I'm just gonna hold off on it, and we'll get to it in the analytics section at the end.
Perfect. Okay, those were awesome questions. Keep them coming. The more we want to know what the audience is, make sure we're covering what you guys really want to know. So we're going to jump into just, I think, some examples of the types of posts and conversations that are taking place. So Christy, why don't you lead us through these, starting with this one where we're really talking about KU.
Yeah, this kind of post started because I was getting a very clear sense that they didn't really feel like Jayhawks, because many of them may never ever come to Kansas. And, you know, they aren't here, like Dee said, to have active participation in our athletics, which is a big part of our identity, and, you know, campus activities. So I wanted to be able to share with them, what is it really to be a Jayhawk? And so I put out these posts that are just really short little things that help them know, well, what is a Jayhawk? What's the history of the Jayhawk? What's your fight song? Why do you have this tradition of walking down the hill? Because we invite them all to come to commencement, and we walk down the hill at graduation, where they can understand what all these different parts are and hope to feel like a Jayhawk, because now they know more about our history and what makes us who we are.
I love that. Really building that connection. And again, that sense of belonging to the institution. So important.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you see students doing that for each other?
Students will share when they've done different things. We have a leadership summit that we invite them to in person to come to Lawrence, and they'll talk about their own experiences, you know, when they've come and done something like that, or they'll watch something and say, oh, you know, I remember because my dad went to KU, and this was something he had told me about. So I'm really happy to see that. And they start swapping their own memories, like you would do if you sat down and had coffee with somebody and started swapping stories.
Right. Yeah. And then it seems like they're also doing a pretty good job just providing some practical advice for each other, like what we see here on the screen, a little bit
Yes.
of
Mm-hmm.
let's help each other move forward quickly.
Yeah, they'll post things asking about, has anybody found an online textbook for that class? Or
yeah.
They do ask each other for resources and
Yeah.
shortcuts to things.
Yeah. And as you point out, like if you're on campus, I think you don't even realize how much of that you get just by bumping into somebody on the way to class,
Yes.
you know? And so how
Mm-hmm.
do you provide that for your online students? We've talked a little bit about networking and the importance of that. So tell us how you see that showing up in the community. And then I think we had a question about the role of alumni and whether they can stay in your communities after they graduate. So maybe we could answer that question as part of this slide.
Yeah. Alumni can choose, they can opt in to, you know, request us to let them stay in the community, and we do that. They are welcome to. And you know, some have left and then come back and asked to be in it because they start realizing the other connections. You know, this isn't a group of students who don't have career experience. These are longtime career professionals. Many of them have had 10, 15, 20 or more years of career experience. So they really are a fabulous network to tap into, which and they start to realize that. I encourage everybody to introduce themselves when they're a new cohort. Where do you work? Or what field are you in? Tell us anything you want. You can talk just about your career. You can talk about your family, your interests. You can ask questions or what you'd like to learn from, you know, others in the group. You know, anything you want to share, you can share. And so this is an example of a current student, but our alumni do the same thing. I post theirs sort of as an article, and they tell us, you know, how their lives have changed since getting an MBA. What do they feel was the best return on investment for them of having been in this program? What advice do they have for the students who are there? And it's interesting, they almost all say, get more engaged, get more connected. Take advantage of this entire group of peers, and your future could be business partners, your future relationships and connections. They all seem to really stress the value of that. And so hopefully it's going to, you know, drive the students to get even more active.
I love it. I love it. Well, you mentioned sort of getting students active, getting them engaged. What are some of the tricks? And I think you've already talked about some of this, but tell us some of your tricks for promoting engagement.
Yeah, there's a little bit of bribery in there. So I do, where occasionally I've done some different ones. The socks came about because I started at the start of the semester. I said there was going to be some swag for whoever was the most active in the community during that 8-week our 8-week course session. And I hadn't told them what the swag was because I didn't know at the time, but it ended up being socks. And then once the word got out that it was KU socks, that really got a lot of people talking because they all wanted the socks. They
I want
don't
those
live,
socks.
where there's a campus store to easily go
Right.
and get this stuff. So right now I'm putting out, I do a weekly, because there's so many things I want to share with them, but they don't want 5 and 6 posts from me a day. So I do a weekly that's called Quick Take MBA Edition, where I put all the different information that they might need for the week, important deadlines coming up, links to where they find their graduation information. If there's any exciting news going on at KU that we want to celebrate, I put those links in there. I put links to webinars that they can participate in so that they're getting the benefit of the KU webinars that get posted and emailed out to all of the in-person students. Just kind of everything there. And then I build in, well, if this week's swag grab is if you do this, and I try to change that. So this particular week's swag grab is to start a brand new post to talk about themselves, whatever they want to say about themselves. And they have to do it between, I set dates. And then they'll get some kind of KU swag. Sometimes it's just a sticker because it's easy to mail. This week's, if they do a really good post, they'll get a wall pennant. It happens to be whatever I have. I'm also pretty good at going around begging the different departments for free stuff because budget's always an issue. The Alumni Association has given me luggage tags, so I'll send a luggage tag thank you to each alumni as that lets us spotlight them. It
So
gets
cool.
the Jayhawk out there in the world, so they can hang it up in their office or wherever, and just help us be known. It's a little bit of free marketing there too.
Yeah, very smart. I feel like you really have a great strategy for this. We're gonna hopefully Jeannie's writing this stuff down and making some notes. And by the way, Jeannie's come up many times. She leads our customer success team, so she's one of the people that partners with KU on their work on this. Okay, so where were we? Let's talk a little bit about your results. And Danielle, is there anything you want us to touch on before we jump into that section?
Yeah, before we jump into there, let's answer some of these questions. I don't think that we're going to chat about direct messaging, but we do have a question. Are all conversations public, or can you DM within the platform?
Today, well, okay, so today the conversations are many to many. You can post it to everybody. You can post anonymously, although it's not anonymous to the moderators, or you can post privately to the moderators. Coming soon, direct messaging. Perfect. That's in development right now. Fun pro tip. You heard it here first. So that'll be available shortly.
And then the next question is about channels. So are there opportunities for students to connect via subgroups to engage in topics of specific interest?
So yeah, somebody had referenced channels earlier. That's the subgroup capability of the platform where you can create more like affinity groups or interest groups. KU has decided not to use those because I think, as Christy pointed out, they didn't want to limit who was talking to each other, but it is a capability that we have. And it has lots of use cases that we can talk to you about.
So it doesn't mean that we won't ever do it. We're just not doing it right now. We kind of revisit everything periodically, just as times change, maybe our intentions change.
Great point.
The next attendee member has a fairly well-built student SharePoint portal. Katie, is there an integration to move over already curated information, or must that be built newly?
We have definitely done some migrations from previous platforms before. Depends a little bit on the way the content is formatted and so forth. So that's probably a little bit of a deeper dive conversation with you specifically to better understand that, your situation. So just know it is possible, but there's some nuance there.
Perfect. And as always, we have a partner in the chat answering some questions as well. I always love it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about what you're actually seeing in the platform. So tell us what we're looking at here and what this meant to you.
Me? Well, these are our posts, and it shows you how many views or how many reactions. Students don't tend to react a lot, and I think I think it's maybe more of the reason might be their age and where they are in life. You know, they're not 18, 19, 20-year-olds who, you know, thumb up things and need things thumbed up to feel seen. So I think that might be part of it.
I'm probably
Because
the
even
one
if
who
they
gave you the thumbs up, Christy.
You are.
It's probably me. I'm kidding.
And to
so
clarify, reaction is like a thumbs up or a smiley
Yeah.
face.
Yeah, so smiley
Different than a
face.
response. Yeah.
Right. And so even when they do respond, they don't thumb up and then respond. You know, if you think of Facebook, a lot of times you feel like, well, if I'm in a comment, I also have to react. And so I don't worry so much about the reactions because, you know, that seems to be operating independently of their comments.
Right.
Awesome. But you can see how many, you know, when I post something, how many people look at it. And that, you know, I probably spend as much time looking at that, refreshing to see how fast and how many people have seen something. But these titles are the different posts that have gone out recently. Mickles and Dime is one of our online professors who puts out a podcast, and so we wanted to share that with students.
Oh, cool.
Because we're also trying to build different ways that they actually feel like they know their faculty and they know the instructors. You know, they're not walking into a classroom sitting right in front of them, and it can be a little bit harder with a Canvas course. And so just creating different ways that different people can get to know them. And it was a very popular one.
I love it. I love it. And then it looks like, I know we had a question about data. So this is a view of the community data. Talk us through it a little bit.
Well, you can see, you know, like when it's down at the bottom of the line, that's winter break and spring break. So
Yes.
it tends to go quiet then. But you know, it peaks when a new post. I'm always amazed. You know, I send something and it's almost like people start reading it, and I'm surprised that it's even sent that fast. There are people who really, it's almost like they're just sitting there waiting for something new to come and look at it.
Yeah. And so you can, like at a higher level on the analytics question, the community's tracking who's in there, what are they doing? You can export all of this data out of the platform. So if you want to rework it in your own way or combine it with data from another system, it's really easy to do. And we also have very granular, like learning event level data that you can access through API if that's kind of the depth that you want to get into the data to really play around with it.
I think watching this can also help you decide, well, what day of the week are the most people in there? Because it can help you decide what day should you post something. If they're consistently very few in there on Mondays isn't the day to post something that you really need everybody to see. You know, it's their first day of work and that's not their focus that morning. But it can help you decide what day not to post something. It can help you decide, well, this day's kind of quiet. I'm going to put my exciting material that day to try to drive some more interaction that day. You know, whatever approach you want to take.
Ah, that's really smart. Yeah. So you can really see the ebbs and flows of the community over time, which is kind of cool. Well, Danielle, is there anything else on that note that you want us to touch on?
We have one person looking for some advice. How do you decide if you want to use a resource versus a conversation?
All right, let me provide a little colorful commentary before you answer. So in the platform, there's the conversation piece, which is a lot of what we've been looking at. There's also a resources area where moderators can put like more curated assets.
Mhm.
But it's a great question. So I don't know, Christy, how do you think about that?
Jeannie and I talk about this a lot, trying to decide, should I use this as a conversation or a resource? Some of the things are just easier to lay out in a resource, like the weekly cumulative information post. I can put in a lot more graphics, things like that. Conversation, but I do a mix because I want them to get used to both. I don't want to train anybody only if they only want to see stuff that I'm posting to only look at resource. So I use both. Conversations are easier to get them talking back and forth to each other.
Yeah.
Resources feel a little more like I'm asking you a question and you're giving me an answer, as opposed to actually having that conversation, the back and forth.
Right. I think that's, resources like I'm pushing information at you versus like welcoming
Right.
a dialogue. Yeah, that's a really good delineation. I like that. Well, it seems like it's going great. What are you thinking about doing next?
So
I'm always just
possible-
looking for. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Christy.
No, I'm just always looking for new ways to try to drive their interaction and get them more engaged and feeling more like they're getting more value out of the program. I think with online students, you have to work a little harder to make them feel part of your school, part of your community, and to drive up the value that they're getting. You want them to feel heard and seen, even though they're not here. And so we're just always looking for new ways to do that.
Yeah, awesome. Did you want to add something, Dee?
Yeah, I'm hoping that at some point we can add in our other programs that we have. Even if they're in person, I still think there's a lot of value to doing this, particularly like for our full-time students that are admitted to campus. When they become admitted, there's a tail on that before they actually come to campus. And it would be great to engage them early, get them started, meet fellow students, have a way to just kind of foster that relationship before they're here and let that cycle continue.
That's really cool. Like reaching into the, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, the enrollment process to pull people in a little bit faster. That's a really neat idea. Before we wrap, I did want to just welcome Erin from my team to say a few words about some of the broader strokes picture of Inscribe. Welcome in, Erin.
Well, thank you. So I know we're almost at time, so I'll make this pretty quick. I know usually when we do these webinars, I think regardless of platform, there's some things you can take away from hearing from, in this case, the University of Kansas. As the person responsible for sort of the commercial side of the house, I always like to do a shameless pitch at the end of these webinars. But Danielle, so we'll reach out to everybody with a copy of the recording after. Please let us know if you would like to learn more. There were very specific questions about migrating content and things like that. So we're always happy to have separate calls to dig into that. And then Danielle will put up a survey where you can also identify if at the end of the webinar, if you want more information. The 2 points that I'll leave you with is, number one, Inscribe is a platform. We know that you're being asked to do more with less. Budgets can be a challenge, but I think Inscribe has done a really good job being able to drive really positive student outcomes for our customers. Particularly, we look at places like Rio Salado, Western Governors, University of North Texas, and University of Maryland Global Campus. Significant impact on the retention and persistence of online students. Arizona State University, a significant impact on academic outcomes. So we'd love to share a bit more. We've got a ton of great case studies that go really in depth into sort of the outcomes that we've driven. I think the other piece of this, Daniel, if you go to the next slide, and this will be the last one, I promise. The beauty of Inscribe is that I would argue we're quite reasonable, and typically it only takes a student or two, depending on the type of institution, to be able to retaining a student or two to pay for the platform. I always like to say that an institution's community, its students, faculty, staff, alumni, are one of its greatest assets, but oftentimes they return a limited dividend. So you already have this asset. Inscribe is really that engine that puts it to work for the institution. So with that, I'll turn it over to Katie and the rest of the group to wrap things up.
Katie, you're muted. I've been
Sorry,
practicing.
my dog. Thank you. My dog just came in and started barking. Thank you, Erin, for that. And unless there are other questions from the audience, I just want to give a huge thank you to Dee and Christy for being with us today and sharing your story. You guys are doing amazing work. I feel like I learned a lot today about community building, which is always fun. So just thanks for being our partner. And I'm really looking forward to all the amazing work that we're going to do together. So cheers for you guys. Couple of things we do have. We did put together, because we get a lot of questions about community building, a little bit of a how to do it guide that I think Danielle will drop in the chat. If you're interested, you can grab that. It just gives you some strategies on community building, whether you're using Inscribe or not. And other than that, I would love to stay connected. So please come track me down. Find me on LinkedIn is probably the easiest thing, or you can shoot me an email, join our website. And yeah, definitely let us know if you'd like to learn more about the platform. We'd be happy to answer your specific questions. Yeah. With that, we will